Um, this week was really, some classes are really hard to, it's important to know about that information, but when you internalize it and look it through your own lens and experience in life, it's kind of like, it's tough. Taking this class now at exceptional students, which is disabilities or anyway. So this week we focused on how the system helps parents and teachers to be tuned and the same. So parents provide information for the teachers as to what they should know about the child, the student, and the teachers track their progress if there's any. And the general rule is everybody should be in the general classroom, and avoid those other special rooms where only, for example, autistic kids will be there or dyslexic kids will be there. They don't want that. It's like in Japan, they don't want that. They want to integrate everybody together because statistics shows that children who are integrated into the classroom thrive and learn more, and it's also good for the students who are like their peers are helping them, and when they explain to them concepts of what the lesson was about and like give them a hand, the peers feel like they're in charge as well and they're being helpful. So every child ultimately wants to feel loved and belonging and helpful. People trust them with information, people trust them with chores, so they do it willingly. So this is like general stuff, I guess everybody knows about that and gets it. What really struck me was when you send your kid to school and you kind of like know that some stuff is kind of like off a little bit, but then you don't pay attention, you don't, it'll be fine, that kid is fine. And then all of a sudden you're called to have a conference at the school and meet with not only with the classroom teacher but with a whole bunch of other new team of people who are, and that meeting is with people that we call, what was it, IEP. And so at that point they tell you and they know that this is what we've been tracking, this is what the signs are, and this is what we think your child has. And so you have to decide now what's the next step. We're here to help you, we have all the resources at school to do that. So they just basically, how do you break the bad news to the parents with naming having a name, having a label for the condition. And for example, if it's like a first grader who seems to not be able to read yet, towards the end of the year it's still struggling, then it might be dyslexia. And so the parents have to deal with it. And when I say parents, as I learned in my other class, 75% of what parents means is the mom. And the mom is the person to contact anything that regards with the child. And so I don't know if it's a difficult situation. So our instructor, he was asking us, so how would you do it? How would you break the news? You know, and there is no easy way to that, but my other classmates suggested that we could be almost excited, not excited, but like reassuring that there are materials and sources in school that can help, and you can have a positive outcome of the whole situation. And so, there are lots of autistic kids who grow up to be brilliant adults, and kids who have the ADHD who become brilliant minds in the future. And so you just have to get through the hard age where they're still learning their cognitive and physical habits, really, like to sit down and listen or collaborate with small groups and teams. And that's a teacher's job. And the teacher's job is also to learn to communicate, really, with the parents, with the mom. Because when the mom starts building resentment because they feel like they're not in the loop, or because the teacher uses too many acronyms that the mom doesn't know, it's like a foreign language to her, then of course. So a little bit forward to that, it made me think. Really, it made me think. In the States, it's really hard because, say, in Japan, 99% of the students in the class, if not 100%, are Japanese. There's no kids from other countries. Every once in a while, you could see like a half kid, but half kids are still like born and raised in Japan, and so they're Japanese to the marrow of the bone. And so you don't really have teachers who are struggling in the classroom to include everybody. You could have like different mental issues. You could have ADHD. You could have all that. But think about it. In the States, in the classroom, you could have Hispanic kids, Chinese kids, Filipino. You could have African American. You could have all kinds of, indigenous, native indigenous people. You could have, oh boy, Pacific Islander people. You could have any kind of kids there, and they all bring their own culture. They all come from different family ethnicity or language or culture. And so you bring all those kiddos in the same classroom, and the teacher is starting to pull her hair because how do you make it work for everybody? Something that this kid says could be offensive to that kid. And so you have to be very careful as to what instructions to give to the class and how to build this community that everybody is accepted, respected, and belonging, and so on. So I think I really start to admire teachers here, and no wonder nobody wants to be a teacher. Nobody wants to be a teacher or an educator here because it's a hard work. They throw in the classroom where, the socioeconomic status is like varying, and like so poor or like middle class or like rich kids together, and then they start segregating, and you just don't know what to do. Or like this kid just came from Peru, they don't know any English. What do you do? I'm starting to wonder what those teachers that my kids had were thinking when 5 weeks before classes finish, they throw those 3 kids that come from Japan, and they cannot assess them. They cannot, at the end of the year, they have so many tests, and my kids were just reading books during those tests because they didn't know any of that stuff. And if I don't know, if I were that teacher, I would probably try to reach out to the mom and ask, how can I help? How much of English they know, and do they need extra paperwork and extra worksheets for them, extra something for them to do? I would do that if I were a teacher. Because in my case, I would embrace any help that they could provide for those three that just only know their devices at home and ignore everybody around the house. And they've been doing that for years, because that's what they have been doing in Japan as well. It's been only 2 months here and nothing has changed. But bottom line, I don't know. I'm learning from the teacher's perspective and from the parent perspective. I can see it too. And it's very interesting how those two things can be in the same person. It also made me think of, in Japan I had absolute zero knowledge or communication with anybody there, in the school of my kids. Besides the let's be nice to everybody and bow to everybody, they don't really tell you what I was not the person to communicate about my kids anything, like any of their teacher parent conference in the school about how they're doing with their development. I was just told probably in 2 sentences briefly from their father what basically the teacher said, without any details or anything, no further follow up about anything. My kids struggled. They not about like being half Bulgarian there. No, there was nothing racial there about it, at least to my understanding. I hear now my second boy saying things like they always call him a foreigner, but it didn't really affect him so much. It was more like on the level of my oldest had really hard time. He was traumatized by this mother of another classmate who was chasing him one time. And to this day, we're not going to, I don't know why she was chasing him and what she wanted to talk to him about. All he knew was like she wanted to trap him with her son and chasing, like running after him. And he was running all the way to the house. And he felt like, at that time I was cooking the dinner, I think. I was just back home from work and I was cooking the dinner and my hands were oily and greasy and I was on the stove and he was saying, mommy, help. And I was like, sometimes I just make up things and like, what's going on? I was not like in a alert kind of mode. And so when he started telling me about all that stuff, I was like, well, what can I do? Tell me, what can I do? I don't know her phone number. I don't know who I can contact for help from the school. His father is out of sight because he is elsewhere. And so how he would say is, I work. I go to work. I have to go to work. I work. He's the only one who worked, and that was the most valuable thing in his life. I mean, he's got it now. Now he can have it all. Work. So, yeah, we talked about that actually recently. I think when it wasn't his birthday last Sunday, I think we talked about it late at night. And every time when we go back to those memories, it seems like he's not over it yet. And I'm trying to ask him or guide his mind with asking questions towards healing from it and letting go from it. But it seems like it's been a trauma and we have to learn to deal with it step by step now. And it's not the base and the foundation, but I feel like he's got a lot to work on, and it might affect his future because of what he sees his past to be. And he defined it as a really hard life since first grade. And so we have to work on those things. But that's my main idea is I had no connection as to what the kids at school and their lifestyle, and they would come and tell me things from at home, but like what where I'm learning right now is teacher parent, or I should say teacher mom connection is very important. So that the student can know that mom at home, parents at home are on their side, and they're helpful, they're there to help, and the teacher on the other side is also helpful, and they work towards the same goal, which is for the child to succeed. There was no such thing from that my kids probably felt at home, because I don't know what they teach and what they train those teachers in Japan, because apparently every Wednesday they have training somewhere, they're doing something like they have sometimes big trainings, and sometimes they're just localized trainings, but they do train them every Wednesday and have meetings every Wednesday. They go through a lot of training, but I don't know what they teach them there, but I know it's not easy to be a teacher and they have to deal with a lot of stuff. But one thing I know for sure is if one of the parents of the kid is non-Japanese, they would go and talk to the Japanese parent, obviously, for obvious reasons. Doesn't matter if it's the dad or the mom. In my case, it was not the mom. And so there is, I don't know what to call it, really. There's that. And so, however, I'm learning a lot from that experience. If I didn't have that experience, I wouldn't understand a lot of the things firsthand when I read them in a textbook and we discuss them at school. And so there is to a mom and a teacher being the same person, there is a lot of hats you have to put on. You have to be an educator, and you have to be a psychologist, you have to be a physician, you have to be a cook, you have to be so many, you have so many hats on, and there are layers and layers and layers that and sometimes when you feel burnt out, that I learned that at school, like it was in my textbook book too, that you have to be nice to yourself, you have to forgive yourself, you have to give grace to yourself, and don't expect yourself to be perfect. It doesn't happen the first 3 years of practice, from what I hear. And to be honest, it will be my first time to be a teacher in the States, but I have been an educator even before that, since my second kid was born, really, I think. Yeah, since my second kid was born. So since 2011, I have been an educator without diploma, without the knowledge behind it. And I remember even as kids, me and my sister, when we were small, we would play teachers at home. And we were left, because both parents worked, we were left alone for a long time, long hours. So we would study, we would write papers, we would grade papers that our stuffed animals students would write, and we would do it for them. But I remember us doing that, and it was enjoyable. So I don't know if it was in our blood, in our DNA, but and when you become a parent, a mom, it just comes out naturally, like intuitively, what to do, when to do it, and you get lots of help from other people and advice, but ultimately you're the one who is the nurturer of the kid. You nourish them and you nurture them along the way. That's what it is. And so it's been a very educational week, and I hope that I can be of help to the parents and not a burden to them, and not calling names to kids and parents, and avoid those rumors spreading around school and people asking questions about those things. Are no. So I know I'll try my best with that, but I also want to be there for my own kids. And when they start school in the fall, in August, I want to be on track with what they're doing, how they're doing, and less time on devices and more catching up with English so they can succeed if they want that. If they don't want that, that's I cannot be in their head and tell them what to do. But yeah, it just it was a very, very interesting and learning experience, I guess.